We've had a wonderful first session, and now the second lecture in this session is from Professor Vivek Savarwal. He's the director of APJ School of Architecture and Planning, Greater Noida. Professor Savarwal is the first Indian architect to receive a master's degree in organic architecture from the Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture, USA, in 1995. He has worked as an intern architect for the world-reputed Thelisian Architects Limited, USA, which is the evolution of the architectural practice founded in 1893 by world-famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright. He is widely traveled and has worked on several reputed international projects. He was a guest writer for Financial Express 2004 to 2006 and has written for several design journals and newspapers. He was a principal architect in Architectons, founded in 1964. His firm, which designed several schools, hospitality projects, residences, and his recent projects including residential townships in ashrams in Vrindavan and Govardhan, and MP State and National Award-winning Creative Art Residency in Mayar, MP, all reflect his firm belief in organic architecture, where nature is a constituent of the built form. Sir, we extend a warm welcome to you in our faculty development program, and we would like to start the session now. Uh,
I would like to start my presentation with a slide, and this image depicts in true sense the perennial challenges for academy and practice. The architecture education today is complex and dynamic, resulting to a host of impetuses and accelerated changes. Now, these changes are outcome of globalization, increased awareness to protect fast depleting resources and ecosystems, and advancement in information technology, allowing us to communicate without the need of physical proximity. More prevalent because of blended teaching learning. Now, teaching academy and architecture practice have a greater role to play than ever before, where we need to instill a rigor and discipline for continued lifelong learning service and knowledge growth. And I'm making these indictments because I'm passionately interested in elevating our vision for architecture and thus elevating ourselves as architects. Architecture education needs to change, and the new education policy would be the catalyst for the change to happen. Architecture schools have traditionally been the place of new architecture thought, exploration in creativity, and innovative technologies and seen as agents of change. Not surprisingly, practice is of the view that most graduates are not industry ready, making it difficult for fresh graduates to adjust in office or for that matter find appropriate jobs. The teaching academy constitutes inculcation rituals based on a century old notion of architecture, sometimes over compartmentalizing the various knowledge disciplines in the field of architecture and failing to consolidate the interrelationships, constraints, and dependencies necessary to build anything. The relationship between learning, teaching, and practicing needs to be examined. And the next slide will show that since these students are the central focus of our education, the principal realms of differentiation between the academy and practice, to my mind, are people, budgets, and gravity. So let me take it up one by one. Practice is embracing an ever widening audience, as suggested by a famous management guru, Robert Gutman, who termed the organization's client, for which the practice must orchestrate, collaborate with, answer to, appraise, felicitate, placate, and ultimately satisfy in its quest to create architecture. Now, this embrace is the largest time and resource consuming practice. It is the most defining aspect of service component in the academy constituency, served radically truncated, even celebrated as a personal statement, an audience of self. Logistically, there is some understanding for this misguidance. but pedagogically there is no excuse. Let me talk about the second aspect now, which is the budget. To sustain critical practice at any meaningful level, thoughtful and diligent management of assets and resources must be maintained. Now, these assets and resources are not just limited to the practice and its members, but also include the assets and resources of our clients and the communities in which our work resides. Way better to instill this fiduciary rigor and discipline required of any professional than in the academy. However, the realities of deadlines, the submittal criteria, the costs, the budgets, risk and return are not addressed with much vigor and assimilated by the academy. Let me talk about the third point now, the gravity. With respect to Newtonian sense of objects waiting to fall to earth and the gravity of our cultural responsibilities and standard of care for those our work service, the academy deals with these issues in a highly compartmentalized and detached manner, detached from the synthesizing opportunity that the studio offers. The critical issues of making are not celebrated in the studio at a level comparable to the verbal discourse so encouraged to describe the project's intentions. Now, the academy suspends these forces of gravity to allow form to take shape without function, without obligation, without direction, floating in the thin air of metaphors and similes, contextually served, dancing only to popular self-indulgent tunes of art historians, theorists, and critics. Architecture to me needs to be much more about ideas than it is about ideals, not just blind intuition and feel-good intentions. Now that realization is a daily reality in practice and needs a stronger thrust in the teaching academy. Both have an obligation for leadership and influences on issues that impact the natural environment and that produce the made environment. Both have a sacred charge to mentor and nurture the next generation of architects. Both have a great role to play. The most positive aspects of these divergences is the opportunity for what Peter Senge called the creative tension to exist between the academy and practice. Senge defines creative tension as alliance formation rather than the treaties of opposition, an action that requires a shift in the focus of our journals, our papers, our conventions from architects to architecture. In short, we need to define the vision for architecture education in today's context. The academy needs to realize its role has always been that of knowledge generator. Practice needs to topically apply and test that knowledge against the current realities, and together through reflection create a theory practice engagement which grows the body of knowledge towards realizing the vision. Now let me ask a question. As practitioners, are the architects willing to invest in knowledge generation? As educators, should we limit ourselves only towards a knowledge-based discipline, or do we move towards skill-based training? For me, knowledge acquisition is the clear choice as a primary objective in foundation building. My choice has been stimulated by my own architecture experience, both in practice first and now towards academics. An understanding of the sweeping paradigm shifts in geopolitics and geoeconomics, which in turn are accelerating the contraction of cultural and communication gaps between traditional divergent peoples. Now, classical economic theory identifies the fundamental source of wealth as land, labor, and capital. Currently, under generator of wealth is at work. It manifests itself, information, if you will, knowledge. Now, as a knowledge-based profession, we can truly add value with our works, moving beyond our current self-vision as only problem solvers. But as value adders, our worth increases to the people and places we serve. Our sphere of influence and leadership grows, and our vision and transcend to be about architecture than only architecture or worse, designers. Our profession needs to invest heavily in expanding its knowledge base to survive and prosper given the paradigm shifts. We do not have the luxury to wait for the academics to become the primary generator of new knowledge. The supposition begs the question of both the academy and practice. Who are the knowledge generators? By what means is the knowledge formulated, tested, measured, and transferred? How does the knowledge generated inform and guide the vision of architecture in for the 21st century that we are living in? I believe if we have the spirit and fortitude to address these questions, we will naturally reshape the academy practice relationship in the vision of national education policy towards an amalgamation of higher purpose rather than the growing opposition we experience today. The practicing architects need to seek a bigger role in the education stage. The profession needs to better reflect the education world, and diversity should begin in the school colleges. Now, too often we are apologists for much of what we do not control, and we do not take enough responsibility for what we do control. Now, this profession overvalues skill as an entry requirement and underinvests in expanding its body of knowledge. The academy substitutes inculcation rituals based on a century old notion of what architecture is about, or an education that instills a rigor and discipline for the continued lifelong learning, service, and knowledge growth. As architects, a lack of knowledge development feedback loop between practice and the academy is keeping us in the backwaters of influence. We are seen too often known not only as skilled graphic communicators, rather than being in the forefront of influence as knowledgeable, value enhancing lead participants, creating beautiful, culturally significant, and sustainable environment that the growing global community is demanding. Now, approaches to education that demonstrates knowledge and rely heavily on generic abstractions, which is antidotes, rules of thumb, intuitive valuations, underrepresented the richness of the interconnection between knowledge-based disciplines. Now, life comes to us as a whole. It is only the analytic lens we view through that it makes it seem as if problems can be isolated and solved. When we forget that it is only a lens, we lose sight of the dynamic complexities that comprise any architectural undertaking and are doomed to failure. Let me propose that as teaching architects, we begin investigating a broad case-based curricula that de-emphasizes skill in favor of knowledge, replacing the emphasis on task-focused training with the emphasis on lifelong learning. Now, how can we expand? How can we build and expand a knowledge base? By design and learning organizations and by focusing core knowledge alliances with other knowledge-based discipline. The next slide shows the different levels of knowledge growth and the strategic knowledge implementation. I believe there are other disciplines and organizations to learn from as we reconstitute the academy practice relationships. Let us not forget human beings are designed for learning. Let us as architects not neglect to design learning organizations in which to pursue the promises of architecture, a promise for an architecture that does not conclude. Thank you.
Wonderful presentation, sir. Sir, there are some questions, and generally, the students have suffered within the current COVID time, especially struggling to get an internship and other employment. So offices these days, they expect the graduates, fresh graduates, to be industry ready. So could you please elaborate on that? That what should actually be inculcated in a students who's just fresh out of college?
Well, I think, this phrase of being industry ready, by the practicing architects across the country, we've heard this term so often that every college, has to look into this aspect, that how do we prepare our students to be industry ready when they graduate and go to an office. But I have a different take to it, because if that is the only point of, a major objective. Now, what happens if a student who enrolls in the 5-year program and we are just preparing them to be industry ready, and by the time they graduate in 5 years, the industry requirements have changed. So I don't think that's a right perception, that the responsibility of the academy is only to make the students, graduates, industry ready. I believe here both the industry, and by industry I mean the practicing architects and academy, both have a role to play. And the primary role, as in my talk I mentioned, was that the knowledge generation, is the responsibility of the academy. And to test that knowledge is where the practice comes in. So both have to play a role. They have to come together, and the industry or the practice cannot just expect that it is solely the responsibility of the academy to prepare the graduates. I think both have to go hand in hand. Both have to nurture, both have to nourish and prepare the graduates or the future generation, so that they are, can face the real time problems when they enter the practicing field.
Okay, sir. So there is another question, which is asking that according to you, what should be of a greater value, the development of skills or the core knowledge in students?
Well, I think, the body of knowledge is more important than the skill development. The skill development will come, but if they are at the foundation level, if they miss out on the knowledge base, that the students will never be prepared to face the real issues when they enter the field. So the primary objective of both the practice and the academy should be to focus on the core knowledge. And so that is where, because ultimately when the graduates come out, they're often seen as graphic or visual good communicators, and they're only seen as problem solvers. Whereas I see architects are not just problem solvers, they should be seen as value enhancer, and they can only enhance the value or make a greater contribution to the society, have a greater influence by showing the knowledge that they have gained. So, and this is where I believe that the knowledge acquisition to me is far more important than skill development. Skill development will come, but it is and this expansion of knowledge, building of the knowledge takes time. And in a due course, as you build your knowledge, then you move towards the skill building. Though the industry or the practice focuses on the skill, but I would emphasize on the core knowledge which a student should have, and that's where the academy has been focusing over the years, and this is where they want the practice also to join hands in expanding the body of knowledge. Because architecture, as you know, is become more complex and more dynamic. And this is where the, as I said, that there's the compartmentalization of subjects, which was earlier there, and gradually that is being bridged, and the many architecture institutions are integrating the different disciplines. And with the national education policy coming in, I believe that this integration of different disciplines will help for the students to really understand the significance of each discipline. And this is where they can then correlate and build up their knowledge base.
Yes, sir, agreed. I think because fundamentals and basic, development of basic knowledge is definitely important for a student. and they can obviously grasp the skills. And even as they work, we learn each day as we work. And there is another question that asks that there is a need to build an interface between the academic curriculum and the industry or the local authorities. So, what can faculty members do in this case where they need to bridge the gap between the taught syllabus and what is expected out of the students in the offices that they work?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think I'll just pick up from where Dr. Vandana Sehgal, our keynote speaker in a talk yesterday, mentioned that, generally we all know that in an architecture studio, we do involve practicing architects to come in and, join with our regular faculty in taking studio classes. So the point that she made, when you have a practicing architect come in, and share one of their own design problems, with the students, and then the students get engaged in that problem, because this is where the students will then actually learn. It will no longer remain a hypothetical design problem. They will know that there is a real site, a real program, which has to adhere to the bylaws, the norms, and they will work towards that. And this is where they will get closer to the real-time situation, because a lot of times, in the practice, which has become very complex, which would the term that I used earlier by Robert Gutman, that the organization client, where there are many stakeholders, whereas in the academy, the student himself or herself is the client and the designer. So they're not dealing with those real-time situations. But when they are working on a project, which is a real project, and where the practicing architect is bringing that on the board, the students get involved and offer solutions which will, help them grow and develop. So I think these kind of practices will really help, where then they because it's again, we have to keep in mind that we have a very short span of time. The academic semester or the design problem is very short. So in that short span of time, the students will also learn that there is a time frame. Of course, they don't really have to deal with the budget at this point of time, but they will learn that a solution has to be offered in a given a specific time, and there are certain constraints with which they have to work. So I think that kind of process will really help them grow and evolve as an architect.
Yes, sir, agreed. And even collaborations with local authorities will also benefit
Yes,
both, I think.
and you see, because of the thanks to the information technology, the information is readily available. So it's how the students can themselves, and we as architects or the teachers are more like a facilitator. We are only giving them a direction, and the rest students pick it up by themselves. And we're not there teaching them design per se, but we only to help them facilitate and give them those various, the options which are available, and then you get so many solutions out of that.
Okay. And yes, sir. And then there's another question which is asking about your views on the AKTU's initiative to make research cells within the institutes and architecture colleges and various engineering colleges.
Yeah, I think that's a fabulous decision, initiative taken by AKTU. Again, this is on the pattern of national education policy. And I think that the timing is absolutely perfect. Because this is what the national education policy is all about for higher learning institutes. And I think this is the right step. And if I have to speak about my own institute, that we have already started working on this. And research is something that has to be inculcated in a student right from the day one. I mean, from the first year, they need to understand the essence of why we are doing research. Once they understand this, that why documentation is important, why we are doing in-depth research, and then they gradually will move towards providing solution. Because to be innovative, you have to do research, and this is what architecture is all about. And this is where our profession is different from other profession where we expect the students to think out of the box and to innovate. So if you have to think out of the box, if you have to innovate, you need to do research. So I think this is an architecture to me is a lifelong learning process. Though it takes, I believe, 5 years to be an architect, I believe it takes another 5 years after you've done your degree to really understand the nuances of what architecture is all about.
Yes, sir. Then there is another question which is asking that there is even for research studios, the credit is very less, so students are not motivated enough to take up research and other, activities in the development of concept and these things. So
Yeah, this
yeah.
will always be a challenge. And I think, we don't have a solution which will come overnight. But if we are doing a research which is not just limited to hypothetical, we do research of a project, which is, students also understand along with the team, the faculty, that they will be end result, and when you collaborate with the, certain agencies, then you work towards that, and when you find there's a bigger goal towards research, and I think that's where students will get interested. Now I think I can just pick up an own recent example of where we did a rural development project for Ministry of Panchayati Raj, where during COVID times we could not involve many students, though there was a small number of students who got involved. But when you get students to be involved in a research project, which is not just limited to documentation and then it is put away in a file, or they just get marks for that, but they know that it will lead to a solution. And this is what makes the architecture profession so exciting, that you work, you document, and then you see the end result taking shape. So I think uh, we have to devise a mechanism by which we can make research exciting and more meaningful for the students. They need to understand where will this lead to. That's the important aspect.
So again, I think that brings us back to the entire, theme of this FDP on outcome-based education. So over to you, Bipasha, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. Just a second, sir. Let me felicitate you through our mode of sharing this word of appreciation. Thanks for your lovely presentation and your valuable knowledge, as well as your expertization in the field. Thank you so much.
Thank you.